Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised.
So anyway, Horse walks into a bar, goes up to the bar, and the bartender says, "Hey, will you have something to drink with us?" And the Horse says, "I think not," and then he disappears. Now, that joke is a reference to the famous saying by the philosopher Rene Descartes, "I think, therefore I am." I had to explain that after I told the joke, because otherwise I'd put Descartes before the horse. Anyway, welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite.
I'm Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy. My favorite version of that joke is a horse walks into the bar. Everyone else leaves, noticing the danger of the situation.
Yeah.
Yes. Joke has been stepped on. We can continue.
Commence.
Jody, what have you been doing?
So recently rewatched the 25th anniversary of the theatrical production of Phantom of the Opera, mainly the London version on the West End normally, but on this special, it was done in the Royal Albert Hall.
Oh, okay. The
production is, you watch the behind the scenes, they talk about how normally they don't have as grandiose of a setup or of a stage. The orchestra was like 2 times bigger than they would normally have it. The costumes were more ornate.
They may have been ordained. The Archbishop of Canterbury.
I mean,
might
with
have
the way they
and,
fucking treat that particular,
covered that in like holy oils and liniments.
Unfortunately, on a side note, at least in Broadway, Phantom closed right after that.
Mm-hmm.
And Phantom and both Les Miserables are like the 2 longest running theatrical musicals so far. And they both, Les Mis ran from 85 to like 2003, and then they revived it for a year or 2, and then, but anyway, the 25th anniversary of the Phantom is probably like the best visual way of watching that production. Some of the older clips are hard to see because, compression and all that. And any of the older, segments maybe on the Tony Awards or something like that with, the original cast or maybe even the second cast or whatnot. I'm just Phantom is one of my favorite musicals of all time. Okay, yeah. It's amazing. Out of the Andrew Lloyd Webber verse, as it were, I think Phantom and Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. Of course, Andrew Lloyd Webber also did Cats. Me and Brady were talking about. I was talking about later on when we were having our segments for our main topic or whatever. I was thinking about doing a T.S. Eliot segue into Cats, but I decided against that. But
I will say this for Cats: it has my favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber song, "Memories."
Memories is really good,
and I love that.
Memories is really good. Mr. Mistopheles, that's its own thing.
Yeah,
but. Anyway, Phantom is, if you never seen a musical before, if you watch this 25th anniversary, this would be like the make or break for you, because it's probably like the most grandiose production of any theatrical production that you would see live or otherwise. And I believe they taped it over a couple of nights to get the whole performance down.
Yeah, usually they'll do that so they can get multiple angles and stuff like that.
And I can't remember the name of the Christine, the lady that played the Christine part in this one, but of course, Andrew Lloyd Webber said it was his favorite Christine. He always said that, pretty much every Christine play, oh, that's my favorite Christine. It's 5 years later, it's fuck me then.
Yeah, Andrew. That's Andrew Lloyd Webber for you.
Right. And besides Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sodenheim, Seamus Sodenheim, he did he did a ton of musicals, but Sweeney Todd is one of his most famous ones, mainly because they made a movie out of it, and Johnny Depp was in it. But anyway, so I did that. That was fun, and then because it's me, I watched a Australian comedy horror movie made a few years ago called Necrotronic.
Mm-hmm.
And so the plot is our would-be hero that doesn't know he's a hero yet, works with his best friend, and they drain porta potties for a living.
Awesome.
That's
nice.
Literally a shit job. You can assume there were plenty of shit jokes that went with that as well. And so they're driving along, and then you get some exposition that the characters don't know what's going on. But I'm explaining it to you this way because it's more funny to me. His buddy's playing a game on his phone, and then all of a sudden shit starts going fucking crazy. Like,
wait, is that a metaphor, or did the literal shit start going?
Shit
crazy?
actually started going crazy.
Oh man.
Okay.
So like all of a sudden like demons start popping out of like different places where these electronic signals are happening, and so there's a backstory. They explain everything to where at some point near the beginning of the internet, some mad scientist discovered how you could channel a demon into somebody using the internet.
Okay.
And so they're using this app on these phones to try and like basically bring the apocalypse to the forefront. And then unbeknownst to our main character, these random what looks like anti-demon assassins show up that have supernatural powers. This is also, there's a heavy backstory explain how they're like, monks from God that have
Jesus.
this like magical power bestowed upon them through the power of God to defeat these demons. And it was interesting. You could tell it was low budget. They used some, we were talking last week about shitty CGI effects, but the story was good enough, decent enough for them to make that work or whatever. It was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. Like if I was going to give it like out of 10, I'd probably give it like maybe a 6.
Okay.
It's definitely not like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like that movie's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods. I know a lot of people don't like that movie. It's very divisive. I love Cabin in the Woods.
I love Cabin in the Woods personally.
I like it.
What about you, Jay?
Fucking hate it.
Yeah. Jay does not like Cabin in the Woods.
Jay didn't like it.
But what do you think about like Shaun of the Dead and Tucker? Have you seen Tucker versus Dale?
I have. Of the two, I prefer Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
That one's a little bit more grounded.
I don't. It's weird. Of the 3 in the Cornetto trilogy, I prefer.
Hot Fuzz.
No.
World's End.
World's End. I prefer
World's
End.
End's pretty good.
I like
World's
Hot
End's
Fuzz.
my least favorite.
I faintly remember World's End.
World's End's my least favorite.
That's
Shaun of
the
the Dead.
pub crawl, right?
I like
And
Shaun of the
Aliens.
Dead, but like I fucking love. I think Hot Fuzz is like.
I really do like Hot Fuzz.
I think it's
a
pretty
lot.
much a perfect movie.
That one's also
Like,
very grounded.
Hot Fuzz and Tucker and Dale versus Forces of Evil. I've never seen, but like World's End, I like faintly remember my dad watching it.
You'd like Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is.
I'll tell you, Tucker and Dale versus Evil is like unassumingly underrated. Like it is.
It's a good horror comedy.
It's very good because it makes, just like in Cabin in the Woods, if nothing else, it makes fun of horror movie tropes.
Yeah.
To the T.
It's a slasher, except it's from the quote unquote bad guys point of view,
Perspective.
and they're not bad guys. It's just shit just keeps happening and it gets blamed on them.
Yeah, you know how dumb kids are in the horror movies. It definitely like
and they're
leans
just
into that.
and they're just kind of dumb redneck guys. Alan Tudyk is in there,
Gotcha.
and I don't know the other guy's name,
I
but
don't either.
but they're both like really good. Like both of those, you sit down and watch both those movies, and you're gonna have a good time.
Right. That's all I did.
Yeah.
Censored.
Jay, what you been doing?
Well, I've been doing a couple of things. So anyway, I may have to leave that do in there just for the joke to work. Who knows? But I've got
Now cut that out and then just say that and
then have me say it. I'm having a stroke. Oh
Yes.
my God, that'll
Just
work.
have some 5 random censors pop out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those weren't random. There was a long stretch there where it's just like, I got to cut this. Fuck it. Cut the whole thing. Put 5 censors in there. Just make sure everybody realizes something crazy happened in this.
Yeah.
You want to hear the crazy shit? Subscribe on our subscribe star account. For $100 a month, we'll send you 1 second a piece of every thing that we've.
Yeah.
We got to start working on a Patreon at some point.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I would want to at least have enough money to make brownies one day.
That would be awesome.
That would be nice.
But yes, but no, 3 very quick things, hopefully very quick things. One, I finally broke down and bought Mysterium Park, which is the sequel to Mysterium. I like it. I prefer the original a little more because with Mysterium Park, it's a combination of Mysterium and Codenames.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It doesn't have a difficulty scaler like you have difficulty or player scaler that you have with regular Mysterium. So the one way to play it is the only way to play it.
Right.
Whereas in Mysterium, you pick out more. The harder the difficulty, you pick out more things that everybody's got to suss out, and the amount of resets that you get are limited. This one, it's always the same amount of resets. It's always the same board. It's just how you have to play with different people. With 3 players, you actually have to double up on the number of investigators. I don't mind that mechanic, and if anything, it kind of makes for a good little bit of extra difficulty because you can't really go with one train of thought towards a person. You have to kind of split it up between the two that they're quote unquote having to play. I liked it. I think if you have not done the Mysterium route yet, I think Mysterium Park is a better entry. It plays fewer, but it also plays fewer better.
Yeah.
To the 3-player variant in Mysterium, although I did play that this week.
Okay.
Our friend of the show,
Censored.
Friend of the show, John Sheldon, has a copy along with the 2 expansions. And so we played that actually last night over at his house with another friend of the show, Derek Anderson. They doubled up. And that one wasn't too bad.
Okay.
We lost every one of those. It was very bad. That part was very bad.
Not surprised.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It was kind of that. I ran as Ghost one time, and then John ran as Ghost, and we did. Yeah, if you can't see this, which is 99.99% of the Earth's population, Brady almost had a stroke, and his eyes were darting around the room, and toast was smelled everywhere. But yeah. But no, Mysterium Park, I give it a recommend, and not a high recommend, but definitely a recommend.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten into these games yet, I think it's a perfect.
I thought about playing this, getting this to play with the kids, because it is like an easier setup and a quicker setup and everything like that. But it would be kind of useless now because Gabe is away at college, so I rarely see him. So
I'm leaving my copy at the shop here in the studio because I think this was an easy one to break out. Like if we had the time after recording, we could break this open 20-30 minutes, you get it knocked out pretty good. I think and again, it's also not as big a time sink as Mysterium can get. So I like what you have in the package here. I just like Mysterium more.
Yeah.
All right. On RPG front, I've been studying up on Fabula Ultima. In about a month, we're going to be next week. We're going to get a crew at the shop together and hopefully try to play that. I'm hoping for a campaign. If it only ends up as a one shot, so be it. But I definitely want to get that to the table. But I also got another small book RPG. This is Star Trek Adventures Captain's Log. This is a solo RPG.
Oh.
So it's you set everything up like you would as a regular character, except you play it out as yourself. The book gives you prompts on how everything to do, and it really kind of invests you into writing your story without just you coming up with everything. They give you like the bullets and the prompts that you have to deal with, and then you go ahead with that. I'm really excited about this. Star Trek Adventures, low-key, was actually one of my favorite RPG systems I've played in the last 10 years because it's 2d20, so it's a very simple system. The other thing is modified d6s for like how damage works. It's not like it's not a 1 through 6. It's basically a 0, 1, or 2. And however much damage you do off of that is what you're rolling. There's actually special dice that have like the chevrons, the Star Trek chevrons on them, and that's how much damage you do, which I think is pretty cool. That's another game I'd like to break out. And one of the reasons why I like this is because I can create a character for that game starting in Captain's Log and basically like telling his early
building
career
on it.
and then the next thing is to bring it to everybody.
So it's almost
cool.
like you're playing your backstory.
Yeah, it's something that I would like if I can get like 2 or 3 of us, not I think for the podcast. I think that would be our 20-month long we just become a Star Trek podcast at that point.
Yeah,
I'm not putting that on y'all. But it's definitely something I'd like to get like 3 or 4 of us together and like go through the captain's logs individually, and then once everybody's together, put us on a ship and just see where it goes from there.
And to be honest, I don't think I could create a better character.
That was I love that
with the last Star Trek. I was a dude, bro, Vulcan.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Quick little dip into history. So
Yeah.
I had 6 players in that game. 3 people were coming from I don't want to say deconstructionist. I would say and critical, but not in the critical. Let's take stuff from Star Trek and let's flip it on its ear.
And
And
it's the nice way of saying is none of us held Star Trek sacred.
Yeah.
I watched Star Trek The Next Generation as a child,
Right.
but it was never like my favorite thing.
Right.
I was more drawn to Star Wars because it was there was laser swords. Fuck. Yeah.
Also, there wasn't a whole lot of Vulcan philosophy on TNG.
Yeah, and
Not a lot.
I watched
There
TNG
wasn't a whole lot of Vulcan
because it was
on it.
after cartoons on a Saturday.
Though when the Vulcans did show
Oh,
up,
yeah.
it was pretty fucking impressive. 'Cause
Right.
It was Sarek and Spock and all sorts of stuff
Yeah,
there, and
so
some of the best acting.
I
that Patrick
don't
Stewart's
hold
ever
anything
done.
of Star Trek sacred. I like Star Trek. I don't hate it, but I
Right.
don't hold it sacred.
Half the crew was coming from that kind of philosophy, and the other
Right.
half were literally people who serve on the USS Neptune, which
Yeah.
is the local Star Trek.
yes.
Star Trek.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It
that
was
dichotomy was
very fun.
We lost one because his days changed at work, and we lost another one because I wouldn't let his character drink alcohol a lot.
Yeah.
And this was back when that player liked to drink alcohol a lot. Everyone knows who I'm talking
see what you're
about.
saying.
And if you don't know, subscribe to our Subscribe Star, $1,000 a month, and I will give you the first letter of their name.
Yes.
There you go. Be great.
Yeah.
But, that was a good one there, too. And I did a third thing. What was the third thing?
You played a video game.
I
I
did
remember
play a
you
video
only
game.
saying before this when we were hammering it out, you only mentioned Mysterio.
Ethan, what was the
Yeah.
video game, Jay?
and Star Trek?
Because I remember it now, so now you're on the spot.
He has a worse memory than we do.
You can't
so,
be
like,
losing your mind at this age.
Oh, believe me, I work with Jay. That's very possible.
Yeah.
We technically don't like he's my relief. He had to work with me this past week, and I was like one of the great shields you could defend yourself with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all we're
Two
going to say
ships
about
passing in the night. You
Yeah.
never see each other.
that. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
That's
Okay,
what it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
You did
do-
mention that.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm a
That
big
one.
fan. I'm a big fan of what they've done with Bloodstained because the first thing they did was an 8-bit Castlevania style remake called Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which is very well done.
Yeah.
If you can pick that up, I have that on the Switch. Eventually, I was going to get Bloodstained on the Switch, but Steam sales just hit hard.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
65% hard. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, purchase. And then, if you like Symphony of the Night, this
yeah.
is more Symphony of the Night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was expecting a little bit more iteration on the genre. I was expecting a little bit more of this. This could have just been Symphony of the Night, the Lost Levels.
Right.
And some of the levels feel like they were just ripped straight from the Symphony of the Night.
I've played both. Would you say that Bloodstain is a little bit more difficult, or it's like
Well, they're
it
both
just
named
matches?
Blood. Well, they're both named Blood. Is Bloodstain more difficult?
Yeah.
Curse of the Moon was not as difficult as the 8-bit Castlevanias.
Right.
It wasn't. I liked where they like. To me, that one was way more revolutionary with what they did, especially with their storytelling in that game.
But the Symphony of the Night, one-
Symphony. Well, I got so there's a weapon, and I think it's called the Bahava, but it's basically the Chrysagram from Symphony of the Night. I got that within the second or third screen, and this has just been a cakewalk.
Oh, okay.
It's just you basically because you get the shard that ups your strength, which ups your damage, and then you just keep hitting that button, and the things just melt in front of you.
I watched a challenge run for Bloodstained where they played in the bunny suit thing,
Yes.
and they played the whole thing. Like I think they had to actually do some kind of hack or something where they got it earlier, where they could start out with it. But yeah, that was pretty interesting because it like limited like a lot of what you could do.
Yeah.
I watched side note. I watched a speed run of a guy beating Mega Man 2 in 18 minutes.
Jesus.
18 minutes.
Wow.
All the magazines back in the day, there used to be this thing called magazines, Ethan, that would give you tips. And the tips would be like, you fight this first boss and then fight this next boss after that. We were lied to. Those are all lies. The speedrunners cracked it. You
Yeah.
totally don't go after Woodman first. Anyway,
Now magazines are used to store bullets and guns.
Yes.
they're not clips.
Yeah, not clips, they're mags.
Yeah. Yeah. Just say that to the wrong person, and they're gonna get pissed at you.
Yeah. Or they'll have to require five sensors.
Yes. Yes.
That was actually what the 5 sensor was. Now that we've talked about that.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly.
Do you want to know what that was about? Send $15,000 to our Subscribe Star, and we will lie to
We
you.
will provide one sentence.
Yes.
We'll just lie to you.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sentence could be a lie.
So is that it? That it?
I hope
Everything?
so. That's
Nothing
a lot of
else?
stuff
Nothing
for
else?
me.
Ethan, what have you been doing?
Besides things from work, I got me an extended weekend coming up, so I'm
Okay.
gonna be enjoying that a little bit.
Mhm.
We played a board game.
We
last
did.
Week.
We did.
Alien Frontiers, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Imagine colonizing Mars, but you're only able to do certain abilities depending on what you roll on 3d6s.
Mm-hmm.
And so, depending on what you roll, you can mine for resources. You can progress your colony that you're wanting to inhabit.
You can lock out the other players by taking a space on the board.
Oh yeah, the Alien Frontiers is an
Yes.
incredibly mean game.
or you could do what I did and steal resources from people.
Yeah.
With
yes,
three
yes.
turns.
Again,
Yeah, Ethan-
incredibly mean game.
2 turns in a row,
That
rolled a
was-
straight.
This was 3 turns in a row.
It was not 3
Jeez.
turns in a row. It was 2 turns in a row, and then the third time you did it was like 4 turns later. But still, 2 turns in a row, he rolled a straight, which means that you could take 4 resources from any one player, and he did it twice in a row to the same player.
Jesus.
And it wasn't me.
I
And
mean,
Joe was so mad.
They
Yeah.
had the resources. They had locked me out of.
they were the only ones that had the resources on turn 1
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they went first.
and so,
Yeah.
I mean, he would have done the same thing. So
Yeah,
He
yeah.
probably would
And
have.
later in the game, he did.
yeah,
and won
yeah.
because we ignored one of the rules, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Next time.
We ignored many rules.
Well, there were a couple of things that we missed, but that's okay because we figured it out as we were playing it.
Yeah.
Here's a quick tip. If you have fucked up a rule in a game, leave that fucked up rule for the remainder of the
Yeah.
play unless you have something where everybody can get back to even, and then you go with the regular rule.
And that's what we did.
yeah.
Otherwise, you run into these situations like, well, we've been doing it wrong, but now we'll do it right now. And that person who's doing that sits on a giant stack of gold.
Right.
And it's looking down on everyone. It's like, yes, let's go back to the regular rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you fuck up, just keep fucking up for the rest of the session there. But yeah, you had fun. You had fun
Yeah,
playing it.
I had fun. I had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah. I enjoy Alien Frontiers.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite dice games for sure.
Shout out to our friend Joseph Navarro, who was the initial victim of theft, but then became ruler of Mars.
JT played that too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
JT
you,
with
me,
us. Yeah,
JT and Joe. Joe's been on a hot streak with winning board games recently.
Yes.
nice.
Yes, he has.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad anytime we can like coerce the people from the Magic community into playing board games with us is always a good thing.
You say that like you're not part of the Magic community.
I am. I'm part of the coercion of
Okay. Yeah.
bring 'em in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty slow week. So that was me.
Hey,
Okay,
Magic
well.
players, play different games.
Yes.
When you come back to Magic, it might help you.
Yeah, expand your horizons.
Mm-hmm.
Play more than just card games.
Look beyond the cards.
Look beyond the cards.
Yep.
Hey Brady, what have you been doing?
I haven't really been doing all that much. Continuing to rewatch/watch because I never watched the whole thing. The Venture Brothers. I really like that show, but man, there's some rough stuff in there where it's like, ugh, man.
Age well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Nah.
It doesn't. I'm also continuing to read the Parable of the Sower. I've been playing decent amount of Pixelborn. I think I pretty much I got the last few cards that I really needed. So my decks that I've built for real in Lorcana are complete, and I've been playing a decent amount
Nice.
on Pixelborn. Play some really fun games where I came back from a pretty good deficit. One of them being I was 10-0 before the fifth round, which is pretty hard to come
That's
back. And I
rough.
was really proud that I pulled that one out.
Yeah.
I had to really pull shit out of my ass.
That's one thing like Lorcana seems to have like not an issue with, but like the game the way it is now with the cards that you have in your pool, like the catch up mechanics are like kind of
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah, if you're playing like against an aggro deck and you let them get ahead and you
And they
don't,
lure
you don't
you out.
control
Yeah.
that, like it gets to a point where you're just like, okay, we're gonna scoop. I concede. I still don't fucking know how the rankings work because I can't get out of bronze level to save my life. But I was able to like really like there like the one before that 10-0 where I came back. I literally had to play a whole new world, which is you discard both players discard their hand and draw back to 7. And I was like, okay, let me do this, and maybe I can find.
Hopefully.
And I lucked up, and I drew a really good hand, and I was able to wipe all their stuff out and get back a decent board presence.
That's another thing like lore kind of has over other games, especially like Magic, where like if you're in desperation mode and you like play a wheel effect in Magic, you could look out and like draw pretty good, or you could draw like 4 or 5 lands out of 7 cards. And in Lorcana, you're not drawing lands. You've got playable cards in your hand when you do that.
Yeah. So I've been continuing to play. A lot of Amber Steel, which I think is a really good combination. So good, in fact, that like some of these bigger tournaments are like half of the people are playing it. But there are different versions of it. There's like a standard, and then there's some variations here and there. And I like the one that I've been playing because it has a lot of answers, I think, especially against some of like the Boogeyman meta decks. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping this Sunday I can go to top tier and play in a tournament. I wasn't able to go the last couple of weeks, but I want to do that.
You got to go alone, or you want to try to get like a crew?
I mean, if somebody wants to go, I'm all for that, but I don't know if anybody. I just want to go and play against different people.
I need you, Sims, and Holder to play your constructed decks against the starter decks against the rest of our friends, and just destroy the shit out of them.
Oh yeah, like because the other people who haven't been getting or paying for the cards, like the decks that I have are, and it's not like an ego thing. It's just they're not going to stand up to it because these are like well-honed decks.
Differing power levels and optimization.
Yeah, I figured out, I actually added up how much my Amber Steel deck value-wise is. It's not exactly how much I paid for it.
Right.
It's upwards of, I don't even want to say, to be honest.
Okay, do it.
It's over $600.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
For the like the world of CCGs.
That's value. I paid a lot for some of these cards, but I didn't. But that's not necessarily. But a good thing is that the prices, except for like the $40 and the $60 cards, though most of the stuff is kind of going down a little bit. And they have announced that like they're going to reprint the stuff early. And they're with the goal of they're trying to lower prices on the secondary market.
That's good.
Because they said there's not going to be any difference between the first printing and the second printing and the reprinting. There's going to be no discernible way to tell if this is a first printed card or a second print card.
Gotcha.
So they want to absolutely lower the cost, and that's something that needs to be done because some of these cards are ridiculously
especially
expensive.
A game just came out and to kind of like curate the secondary market, but in the future that's going to be a tightrope they're going to have to walk because that's a very slippery slope when it comes to like overprinting and because you don't want to. You want to mitigate things as far as the pricing in the secondary market, but you don't want to kill the price of like a card by just like reprinting it to oblivion.
Yeah.
There used to be a card. Well, there's a card in Magic called Tarmogoyf, and it was a $100 card. It was played 4 ubs in Legacy and in Modern forever. In Modern,
that's the one that it gets like 1 strength and 1 power for every
card type.
Yeah.
For every card
it's like
type.
Star for power, star +1 for tough.
Yeah, so imagine like we'll use Lorcana for an example. If the creatures actually had like they have a power and toughness,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Strength
imagine
and willpower.
So imagine you had an Aladdin that was normally like a 0/1. But for every different card type in your discard pile, it got +1 to its power.
Oh, okay.
And its toughness.
Oh, okay.
So if you had a song in your discard, it would get +1/+1. If you had a creature in your discard, it got +1/+1. Same for items and so forth and so on or whatever. To where in Magic, it could have gotten it as big as like I think like a 6/7 or a 7/8 or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Because of how many different card types there are. Well, anyway. They reprinted the card and it dropped from $100 to $70, but after about like 3 or 4 months, it went back up to $100. And then a year or so, like 2 years later, they reprinted it again.
Yeah.
And they reprinted it again. They did it like 4 or 5 times. And then the card got power creeped out of the format and dropped down to like $10 or $20.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to happen to Lorcana cards. because like the secondary market pushes product, so it's a slippery slope.
I think right now it's mostly like trying to ward off scalpers.
Right now is a good time for them to do it.
I think collectors. I don't think they're worried about collectors. It's the scalping.
Yeah, it's the person who's going in there and is buying all the stock that they could possibly buy. It's the motherfucker that you see on Reddit with the entire display and 6 troves and
now that the PS5s are starting to
7,
move, now it's Lorcana. That's what we're gonna scalp now.
I hate that PS5s are just now becoming more available, and it's like the system isn't half of its life cycle's over already.
Yeah, the way they're wanting to move.
But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and last week played some Age of Sigmar like we've been doing every week, but I decided to change things up and play my Disciples of Tzeentch.
How did that game go? Because I couldn't focus on that because the Alien Frontier stuff, I'm going to say, as a spectator, it's pretty good. I'd have bought a ticket. Like
John conceded after a while because I was able to kill everything but I think one of his... Did I kill both of them or did I get it down to... Whatever it was, like I could just kind of play keep away and with my bigger things, and I was probably eventually going to summon another Lord of Change, so I'd have Kairos and 2 Lords of Change.
What I saw from that game, John,
but I also rolled like shit. Like I wasn't able to. I should have been able to summon 1 Lord of Change.
That
on the
first battle tactic made me so sad for you.
And also like I'm out of practice with them because so Disciples of Tzeentch can cheat basically. In the beginning of the game, they get to roll 9 dice and set them aside, and that's your fate dice. Your destiny dice, whatever, I can't even remember what it's called, and you can use those to substitute for rolls. And what I should have done was substitute some spells, and they also can, for every time a spell gets cast, either by me or the other person, I get a point, a fate point, and I can spend those fate points to summon in demons. The faction that I was playing can only summon in Lords of Change, which are they're greater demons. They're big, powerful guys. And what I should have done was use some of that fate dice to push through some of my spells so I could get that 9 points that I needed. And I didn't do that. And then I failed several. I either failed or got unbound several of my spells that I really needed to get through. And got screwed over by that. But
and you still won.
And I still ended up like just taking, because like Tzeentch is all about like slinging spells, throwing, and it also didn't help that he threw a lot of he threw an entire Maw Crusher and one of their new giant pigs, Maw Grunta. Yeah. He threw both of those at 110 point unit of screamers, which don't do anything but run and try and grab objectives. Like
they run, they scream, and they die.
They're made of paper. They're just really fast, so I can run and grab something. That's the only reason that they're there. And it was like 500-600 points worth of stuff
versus 110 points that was tied up a whole round just dealing with that.
Yeah.
And by that time, they could start whittling them down.
He went after something that wasn't really that much of a threat.
No, it was not. It was
John
barely.
Usually is very good on the strategy end, on the long form end of stuff, and then on the excuse me. Let me rewind that. He's not good on the strategy end, but in the moment he actually makes the right decision. This one was a complete fucking turnaround.
Yeah.
His facing and placement I thought was some of the best he's done in any game.
And he was
ever
actually
played.
aggressive with them. Like he made sure that he got into. I tried to go second because I wanted him to. He only had one thing that could cast spells, but I wanted to try and get an extra fate point so it would be much easier for me to summon.
Plus, if John goes first, he can't necessarily get to them.
Yeah.
But after the first round,
I forgot about my destroyers. I should have pushed my stuff all the way back to the back edge, and then he would have just had to run forward. But then there was the chance that he just runs forward and grabs objectives. But it's
strategy wise, he set up I think the way he should have, and then just just made horribly tactically bad choices.
Yeah, he was more aggressive with orcs, which is what you should do, but he wasn't. I still don't understand why he went for that stuff, but it's not my job to play your army for you. So I'm going to remind you of my stuff, but I'm not going to constantly. Well, maybe strategy wise, you should do something else. Whatever. It's if you want to I make bad decisions all the time, and I just have to say, okay, well, I just need to remember that next time. Yeah. But yeah, it got to a point where like I could just kind of run and screen and just have, my big guys run around, and I was probably going to get, the 18 points that I needed for the second Lord of Change. And then I would have had 3 of them. And that's a ton of spells because with their spells, they have a lot of spells that can just, okay, I'm going to throw tons of mortal wounds at you, which automatically just do damage because he doesn't have any way. He had one character on there that could ward those with it, that could maybe stop them. Everything else was just, okay, you're automatically getting these. That's one thing that Zinch is really, really good at. Yeah, I had fun. I like playing with the Disciples of Zinch. I like both of my armies now. Now that Bone Reapers is finally an army, I'm probably gonna bring those tomorrow, which will be last week when you're actually hearing this. Because I finally got another list because they changed points and everything, so they really and they hit Bone Reapers hard because they had a high win rate, which is usually what they do. So, but that's what I've been doing.
There you go.
All right.
Nice.
So, somebody do the next thing that we usually do.
Do we have any feedback?
There you go.
We do not have any feedback right now. However, if you would like to submit feedback to the Travelers, that is travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Again, Travelers, 1L, on the omnibus at gmail.com. Jody, what other ways can they get in touch with us?
You can get in touch with us directly by using Spotify polls. Also, we are on Spotify, Amazon, Google,
Yeah.
YouTube, something or another.
Eventually,
Yeah.
YouTube
Yeah,
music.
it's eventually going to be YouTube music.
Saga is going to become Saya.
Saya.
Yeah, because
They're
or Yasa.
changing some shit up.
Yeah, well, the Google podcast is going away.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And,
it is.
Don't forget the fruit company.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Apple.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, sure.
God damn, it's fucking hell. Because it's annoying because I have to move all my shit.
Podcast
Again.
shuffle.
Yeah, and I realized that like half the stuff that I thought that I download for one of the podcast networks that I listen to didn't actually download on Google Podcasts.
And for most of the ones I listen to, which I don't listen to a lot of them, I listen to this show because why not? Got to bump those numbers up. I go to like if they have like a proprietary website, I'll go to the website and listen to it. Although sometimes audio players on those aren't very good.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll be like, we used to do that, but now you have to listen to us on either Spotify or this.
Yeah,
or that.
like any of those smaller ones are getting gobbled up by the big stuff. I still don't understand why some of the stuff that I listen to is not on Amazon Music. It's very frustrating.
I feel like I don't know how or when, but like everything is gonna like dissolve, and then everyone's gonna start slowly circling back to Pandora with listening to podcasts.
there's
music.
podcasts on Pandora.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean
And
they're all trying to do the same thing.
Well, some of those podcasts are on multiple platforms.
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
good
Yeah.
at least
for
for that.
I think most of them are on multiple things. It's just I don't know. It's just all the like I said, all these bigger companies. It's going to be like 3 companies before all is said and done because we live in a capitalist hellscape.
Yay.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think that's enough of ranting for today. So we're going to get into our main topic. Every once in a while, we all want to talk about things that we like and we are interested in that maybe everybody else isn't familiar with. So I basically came up with an excuse to do that, and this is the segment that we call "Sell Me on It." Or sell me on this, whatever.
This will be volume 2 of
Volume 2. So we're going to do another one of these. We're going to go around talking about things that everybody might not be familiar with. Some of us might be, some of us might not. and then we're gonna try and sell each other, like give the elevator pitch that we think is gonna get somebody to checking these things out. Starting out, was there anything from the last one? If you can remember it, we all have terrible memories, so maybe not. This might absolutely fall flat. Was there anything that like anybody talked about last time that anybody tried out?
Ethan took a breath of air and then stopped.
Yeah,
because I'm trying to remember.
I'm doing this. I'm inside baseball. I'm doing this out of nowhere. We didn't plan this part, but I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, maybe this should be part of it. And it's okay if nobody did.
Also,
I didn't.
Passengers, if you partook in any of the things that we suggested.
Yeah, right in. I can't think of anything that anybody brought up that I did, but I was looking at the list that I had written before, and I couldn't even remember which ones exactly I talked about because my memory is terrible. So yeah, hopefully we'll find some. Was there anything, Ethan, or nothing?
Did you listen to punk rock like Jody asked?
I was debating punk rock because I listened.
I was mulling it over.
That's both the least punk thing and the most punk thing.
Very true.
Because we all listen to music. We all listen to music.
No.
Do we
like music?
Do we like movies? Do we like movies? I'm just curious.
I'm still not too sure about that part, but
yeah.
I was.
We love you, JT.
I was thinking about like going into like a deep dive to like, okay, if I had to like sit down and like go through like a lot of like punk bands and see which ones I like, which ones I don't like. I considered doing that, but I was like,
my whole pitch was I basically did the quickest rundown of the history of punk to get you to listen to something that was close to thrash metal, which was the Misfits 90s album. With Michael Graves, the second Misfits
Does
album.
it count if I considered doing it?
No,
Okay.
No, but it'll be all right.
it's fine.
Yeah. It'll be all right.
Don't worry, I'm not offended. No one tried to look at Babylon 5 on Tubi.
Yeah. TV shows are going to be a hard sell for me because I barely have time to do the other shows that
If
I
it
already
had Timothy
had on my
Oliphant in it, you'd be all over.
I mean, probably. Although Santa Clarita Diet, I haven't watched, and he's in there.
That's less Timothy Oliphant's in it and more of a what's her name who
Drew
tried to
Barrymore.
tried to be a strike breaker.
Yeah. All of her writers aren't coming back for her show.
Good.
Yeah.
But she's not the only one who tried to do that, and I think more of them probably should. But okay, so now that we're done with that part and it dropped like a lead balloon, Jody,
It dropped like a Danzig covers Elvis.
Ooh.
That's not. As
I couldn't
rough.
even say the word album.
That's not as rough as Danzig's fourth solo album, where he just decided he wanted to introduce techno music into his metal. Oh, it went over.
I have to assume he just kept watching Techno Viking all over and over again. He goes, I can do that.
Yeah.
That came out before Techno Viking.
What? So
Yeah.
Techno Viking took that from Danzig.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gross.
100%.
Gross.
Yeah. So that's things that you shouldn't listen to.
No, fuck it. I'll recommend it. I don't like it, but you might.
Welcome to our new spin-off segment. Don't listen to it.
Well, if you write it and say that you do like that unironically, then I just know that we have no taste. Like your taste is like not worth listening to.
You've just made it exceedingly harder to sell everyone.
Yeah, we got that one guy in Poland. He's like, I love that album.
Yep. We're in Portugal now.
Oh shit.
We're now in Portugal.
That's my
I'm
favorite
hoping
Danzig
Lisbon.
thing that's ever done was the fourth Danzig album.
Yeah.
I think we should change the name of this from Sell Me On It to Please Buy This, Mister.
Yeah. Now we're getting into Afro Man when he was hawking CDs in the middle of the mall in Haysburg.
We're also getting very close to Wesley Willis's outsider music, Rock and Roll McDonald's.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know what that is, boy.
His outsider music was buying a Casio, hitting a button on it, and then just repeating the same lines over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know who really liked him and that fucked with my brain? Trent Reznor.
I mean, Trent Reznor is very eclectic, and I think he some of that he does on purpose.
Can I do my quick Wesley Willis story real quick?
Sure.
I saw him
derail
live.
us more.
I saw him live as well. There was a place called the Jubilee in Oxford, and he was playing the Jubilee. And me and my buddy Austin went down to the Jubilee to watch it. And Austin was the one that kind of was like, oh, this is Wesley Willis. I'm like, oh, this is my cup of tea. I need to go. Wesley Willis was a 400-pound schizophrenic black man.
Yes.
Okay.
And he would say some of the most outrageous things sometimes. He had a song called Suck a Camel's Dick.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, everybody's in the Jubilee and we're just having a good time because we all know who. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Half of us knew, maybe even a quarter of us knew what Wesley Willis was, and the other 3/4 were completely confused.
Yeah.
Completely confused sorority and fraternity.
Okay,
so
yeah.
it was like, they're like, what the fuck is this? And we're just having just a good old time. And then, like, he asks everyone for song recommendations. It's like, what is a song that you would like me to play?
Yeah.
And one person goes, "Suck a camel's dick." And he says the following: "I have played that song too much already. I will not play that song ever again. Fuck you."
Wow.
He then played the song twice back to back.
I have to tell you mine. So I saw him in Mobile. I saw him in Mobile in the mid 2000s, and he was like in the middle of the show. The other bands on the show were Supreme Dispassion, and the band that was opening was a glam rock band called Shazam.
Okay.
All right. Now, they were okay. They were like mid par okay, right? And this is before like fucking Iron Panther even existed. And
Where you mean Steel Panther?
Steel Panther.
Okay, sorry.
And he does a couple of his songs, and then all of a sudden, like, he does like a riff like in between one of his songs, and he goes, "Shazam is the best glam rock band I have ever heard. Shazam is the only glam rock band I've ever heard. Rock and roll McDonald's."
Rock and roll McDonald's. I just realized that me and Jody just did a sell me on it for Wesley Willis.
Yeah. There's you a bonus sell me on it. So if any of that sounds interesting,
Dude, outsider music. Let's go.
Yeah.
that out, I guess.
Wesley Willis, God bless him. He has passed on many years ago.
Yeah.
But his refrains
Yeah, he
will
didn't sound like he was going to make it very long.
his refrains will echo through time, like "I whooped Batman's ass." That is another song by Wesley Willis.
And by song, we usually mean like one or two sentences, and it was like repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
Batman was an asshole. He got knocked to the floor. I whooped Batman's ass, and like 2.5 to 3 minutes. You should really check it out, Brady.
Oh man,
I'm good.
It will replace Coheed and Cambria.
no,
for you.
it won't.
I very much doubt that. So now that we have that bonus out of the way, you got
You
one
get the
extra.
bonuses first, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
you got the bonus first. So
You get the free one before you have to buy one, get one free.
yeah.
At least we waited to the middle of the show to derail before, normally.
Yeah, we
derail.
actually were pretty on it for that first part.
damn it.
Jody, sell us on something else.
Okay.
I don't know how you're going to top that.
It's going to
one,
be
but-
hard to follow Wesley Willis.
Yeah.
Really, that's why he always was
especially-
the
Especially
headliner.
with what I'm about to say right now.
Yeah.
Let me compose myself.
God damn.
I may not cut this. the
Yeah,
pause
yeah,
out.
just leave it.
I mean, just to kind of let the idea of Wesley Willis wash over us.
What is that feeling when you're driving away from people and they recede on the plane till you see their specks dispersing? It's the two huge world vaulting us, and it's goodbye. But we lean forward to the next crazy adventure beneath the skies. Nothing behind me, everything ahead, as ever so on the road. That's Jack Kerouac.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't follow Wesley Willis with Jack Kerouac.
Well, I just
I
did.
love you to death, man.
I
But
just-
I almost lost it.
Yeah.
I had
That's
to hold
a,
it together.
I thought Jay was stroking because like
I
heard him say, like,
was.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a pivot.
Yeah. That's Jack Kerouac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only one thing a writer can write about. What is in front of his senses at the moment of writing? Am I a recording instrument? I do not presume to impose a story, plot. Insofar as I succeed in direct recording of certain areas of the psychic process, I have the limited function of. I am not an entertainer. That is William S. Burroughs, writer of Naked Lunch.
Okay.
So the beat poets are the initiates before the counterculture started in the 60s. Like Allen Ginsberg, he wrote Howl in 1956, and then Burroughs wrote Naked Lunch in 1959, and Kerouac wrote On the Road in 1957. But these books didn't start becoming part of counterculture until like the early to mid 60s.
Yeah. The beatniks.
The beat generation, the beatniks, if you were, the bohemian hedonists, if you will.
Yeah.
They were a bunch of crazy. Mostly at the time, like Burroughs was like pushing middle age at the time, as well as Jack Kerouac, Ginsberg as well. Ginsberg was like as first probably initiate into the Timothy Leary, like, ooh, LSD, let's start doing a lot of that. So I've read a lot of Burroughs. I've read Jack Kerouac's On the Road. It's been a few years, but they definitely influenced a lot of things. If you don't want to spend time reading, you could watch the film adaptation of Naked Lunch with Peter Weller. You know, RoboCop.
Yeah.
The original RoboCop.
Directed by David Cronenberg.
It's a very Cronenberg movie.
Yeah. Cronenberg's all over it.
You got like body horror with typewriters. You got like alien looking things that are like, using their fingers to drink martinis. You've got like some very like hipster noir pretentious poetry going on in the background, where they're talking about like doing bug powder, but what they really mean is heroin.
Yep.
So it's a trip or whatever.
There's also
literally
a movie of On the Road. I don't think it was very good. It came out not too long ago.
I can't imagine On the Road being well done as a movie, because you have people trying to making finite a lot of stuff that is surreptitiously infinite, just like the notion of just what he's talking about, like the nature of existence and things like that. Like Kerouac's good. Like, again, that was a pivot, Wesley Willis to Jack Kerouac, where
I didn't have a choice.
Where you shallow to deep end real fucking quick there.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that like I said, like these guys didn't start to become part of that counterculture until that part of it was already like dead. In fact, they changed obscenity laws, those books, a lot of them, especially like Burroughs, because there's a lot of
Ginsberg too, I think.
Yeah,
he was banned quite a bit.
Yeah, Ginsberg had a lot of pornography in his stuff. Like descriptively, of course, these are just like words. There are no pictures.
Kind of a similar vein. Catcher in the Rye also took that a lot. I mean, it's not in this realm. They definitely dealt with stuff that people were not ready to see in print or otherwise.
They pretty much changed obscenity laws to where you could do this sort of literary work, and it could get to people, and it wouldn't be banned. It influenced a lot of bad behaviors as well. It introduced before the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There was sex, drugs, and beat poetry, because a lot of these motherfuckers did a lot of drugs and had a lot of sex, and made it sound cool. So that's not necessarily a good thing. And it also like
What are you, some kind of square?
Yeah, 100%.
Are you on the square?
The life and times of Dobie Gillis. You want to see Gilligan from Gilligan's Island like talk like he's really stoned all the time? Watch that.
It's possibly because Bob Denver was stoned all the time.
He probably was. He probably was. It's like, that's not my bag, man.
No, literally, like the actress that played Marianne and him got in trouble because she shipped him some weed.
Oh, I believe it.
Which that's the mark of true friendship, by the way. That's what makes me glad about that.
So yeah, if you want to expand your horizons as far as like just reading is concerned, you check those guys out.
Yeah,
they're pretty good stuff.
This stuff inspired a lot of stuff. Like, you might not have heard or like these kinds of things, but these inspired a lot of things that you probably like.
Yeah, in fact, Burroughs also, I want to say, maybe not single-handedly, but was synonymous for doing the copy and paste method of writing, where he would take phrases and sentences and like cut them up and like put them in a fishbowl, pull them out, and then paste them on a piece of paper and then write down what he put down there to try and come up with new ideas and things of that nature. Burroughs has almost like a semi-autobiography called Junkie that he wrote in the late 40s, early 50s, where he basically goes into this is another reason why regulation starts happening with like pharmacies and stuff like that, because he basically talks about how he would like just walk into a pharmacy and hand a piece of paper to the pharmacist behind the counter and get drugs.
Yeah.
Like it was unregulated all the way up until like the early 60s or whatever. It was just like, hey man, got any Dilaudid or whatever? I've got like my doctor here. And then like writes the piece of paper before he walks in and like hands it to the guy, and he's like, "All right, no need to prove anything."
Who said the Wild West died in the 1800s?
It did not. It did not.
You could go into a pharmacy and get a phosphate and Quaaludes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you would allow me, we'll have a little bonus one right here. I think a movie that is a kind of has the spirit of On the Road without being a more watchable version of it, because like I said, I think the version of On the Road is not that good. I never watched it, but it never got good. It didn't get good reviews, if I'm not mistaken.
6 out of 10 on IMDb and 46% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's a film by Alfonso Cuarón called Y tu mama tambien. It's about these two guys, these two young men who kind of lie to this woman and say like, hey, we know where this really nice like paradise like beach is, go on this road trip with us, and she says yeah, and they're basically doing this because they both want to try and sleep with her. But it's a lot of them finding out about each other, and there's a lot of like growing on the road and everything. And it stars Diego Luna and Gail Garcia Bernal. Then like earlier when they were younger, Diego Luna is the Cassian Andor. Bernal, he's in the Werewolf by Night with the short that the
Disney Plus.
The Disney Plus is, and it's also on Hulu now.
Oh,
but they're both like much bigger stars than they used to be. So if you want to see something that's kind of, I think, in that spirit. I'm not super familiar with On the Road, but for what I know about it, I think that it matches that spirit of it, and it's actually a better it's in a watchable form. So.
There's another movie that really like for me like hits the core of the values and what they talk about, and it's a 89 movie that stars Matt Dillon. It's called Drugstore Cowboy.
I've heard of this.
It's really good if you haven't seen it. It's not necessarily like beat poetry or anything like that, but it's really like the more of the thought process behind it. And Matt Dillon plays Burroughs is in it. He plays a small role. So Matt Dillon and his crew, they rob pharmacies and such, and like are small time crooks just to keep their high going kind of thing or whatever. But the movie's very philosophical in what they're doing, and it reminds me a lot of some of the stories and stuff that Burroughs wrote. The more based in reality part of like Naked Lunch, because Naked Lunch is based in reality but also based on a drug high and it flips between the two. And it really, watching the movie, I really wish that there was a movie about just the everyday life of Peter Weller's character that's not really like induced in surreal. Yeah. But the surreal stuff is cool, don't get me wrong, but I'd like to see that part of it more than the absurdity, which I like absurdity in certain areas, but that story and that movie go real hard into absurdity because he was on so many different kinds of drugs. But anyway, the Beat Poets, check that shit out. It's pretty cool stuff. Counterculture before the hippies existed.
Yeah. All right. So that's one down. Who wants to go next? No takers.
He's passed his hand towards me, so I have to go. So there we go.
Yeah.
So I focused on this one on YouTube channels because a lot of YouTube viewing for me, what I perceive a lot of people is they kind of float around channels and just go, oh, this, like they look at their recommended feeds and they just kind of hit some stuff. Eventually you find a few things that you kind of get around to. So I wanted to present a couple channels for me, and I'll knock both of these out during this section so we can just kind of move on to the next.
Okay.
But the first one is a video game channel. I have mentioned him before. He actually won my Omni Award last year for favorite YouTuber of last year, and that is Mandalore Gaming. MandaloreGaming, all one word. Mandalore Gaming, it presents a lot of PC games from like as early as like 1995, and maybe some go like a little bit past that. But his real, as far as bread and butter goes, are the things that he grew up with. He recently did a two video series on Myth 1 and Myth 2, which it was very fascinating. It almost tacks on as a writer to his series on Marathon, which, if you know, Marathon and Myth were both Bungie games. These were the games they made before Halo. There's a lot of connection, both sometimes actually, but more times maybe kind of spiritually and kind of just kind of connected to. Whereas you have Marathon, which was a first-person shooter, one of the first first-person shooters, and one of the first-person shooters to have mouse look to where you can like look around.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty cool. I was also one of the first ones that had dual-wielding guns. I think that, and like I think there was a game called Triad, which also had like dual-wielding guns, which was pretty cool. It goes through the entire series of those games, which for a game series at that time, you think about Doom, you think you just get to the end. Marathon had a lot of story baked into it but you had to go looking for it in the terminals that existed in the game. If you did there, though, you had something that was so fundamentally deep and cross-referencing throughout the entirety of the thing. They play with the notion of the player as separate from the character. In Marathon Infinite in particular, you get this notion that the game stops talking to your character and is actually talking to you. Particularly, there's a hero terminal. You had died many times, you had faced impossible odds, and you finally ended up being set. Your character's gone through with that. They're talking directly to you. And at the end of Marathon, which was Marathon Infinite, spoilers, you are the last being. Like when the game ends, the universe ends. Which is the notion of when you shut a game off for the last time, that's it. It just, you go. But they gave you Forge, which was the tools to make your own maps, and you exist beyond the game. You are God. The last line of Marathon Infinite is there's an AI character named Durandal that has been with you throughout the entirety of the thing. For the most part, he's been telling you what to do, and at the very end, he realizes, no, you're the thing that's going to go past this. And he goes, I finally realized what you are. You are destiny. The destiny of every player that finishes a game out. That's what the goal of people developing games are doing, is to give you an experience that goes to the very end and a story that kind of completes itself. So that person that you are at the very end of this, that's what you were destined to be. But in the game itself, it also has a secondary meaning. There is a lot of meaning back behind that games that original Bungie had that I feel they've lost and are only doing referentially in games like Destiny and Destiny 2. I think it's more pushed towards like the micro transact, how much money can we make off of this property style. I miss that about video games. And
that's why I like the Stanley Parable. I was
thinking about that while you were talking about that.
Yeah, that one's a very good one. And that one's almost like
overly meta.
Well, it's a commentary on when players bristle back against what the game designers designed, and I think that's it's very hard coded into that game. I think that's very good too. Mandalore looks at games from I won't say satirical, but he can very go tongue in cheek with stuff. He's very entertaining. His voice is it conveys both knowledge and also conveys that we're also gonna have some fun with this as well. His series on Marathon, I just mentioned, his follow-up with Myth and all that, and how those things all kind of interconnect as far as themes and storylines and messages they're trying to give to the player. He's done a good series on the Homeworld games. When the remaster came out on GOG and on, I also believe, Steam, he did Homeworld 1 and 2 remastered, and he also did Homeworld, initially titled Homeworld Cataclysm. However, they had to rename it because how best to put this, Blizzard Entertainment is fuck, and so when they had World of Warcraft Cataclysm, they had to go back and change the name to Homeworld Emergence, because as far as video games go, you could only have Cataclysm if you were talking about World of Warcraft. And then, they have the upcoming Homeworld 3, but he also got into Homeworld Deserts of Carrick, which is a prequel to the Homeworld series. And again, it's one of those things that I have bought more games off of his recommendations and videos in the last 2 to 3 years than I have almost any other YouTuber, more so than most friends of mine, because he's able to like pinpoint the things that work really well, why he likes these games, and what his just like overall philosophy on what makes good games. The one that I will not buy, because it is, to me, unassailably difficult, and not just in the manner of the gameplay, but also the story, is Pathologic. Pathologic is Pathologic was made by Russian developers, and it's not because of the conflict going on right now. The best description I have seen of Pathologic is, it is a Dostoevsky novel if it is also punching you in the face every time you try to read it.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. It is survival horror, but really accent on the survivor. I would go more into it, but there's someone who has already done a fantastic job of describing this, and is Mandalore Gaming. I really think you should watch that video. The Pathologic 2, which is kind of a reworked Pathologic 1, just with a lot more insight on like, oh, let's make this more accessible to people. That's something I may pick up. But again, it's because of his recommendations on stuff. Again, his presentation style is fantastic. He has a good respect for CRPGs. Some of those that I mentioned that he has brought up, Arcanum of Steamwork and Magic Obscuria. That's another game that I owned once and now have bought again thanks to GOG. There is a more recent series called Stasis, and particularly Stasis Bone Totem. If you want to know more about it, check out Mandalore Gaming. But I will say this right now. I have never been as psyched about something that is so reminiscent of Alien's world that wasn't Alien. Thanks to his description of these games, Stasis and Stasis Bone Totem. More so Bone Totem, because the characters in that, I think, are like, there's one very good character in Stasis. There are multiple excellent characters in Stasis Bone Totem. And I will just leave it at that. And again, so I think for finding out games that don't get a lot of talk about. Now, he was also the reason why I ended up buying Warhammer Total War and Total War 2, because he's gone through deep dives through all of that and all their DLCs, and I think he does a fantastic job at that. I typically don't like grand strategy games, but that was one where it's like, well, it already kind of had me with the Warhammer thing. But when he said that they know what they're doing it right, and they're doing it to where the theme is matching what Games Workshop would be doing. Absolutely fantastic YouTuber. Probably right now, aside from maybe Video Game Donkey and H Bomber Guy, he's probably in my top 3. And I would even then, like, I wouldn't necessarily he's just at 3, but those are like my top 3. But I think he's the one with the fewer amount of subscribers right now, and he's one that I would really like to just kind of pump up.
H Bomber Guy makes like a video like maybe a year nowadays.
And it's like 2 hours, and it's the best 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's like Super Eye Patch Wolf. Super
Eye Patch Wolf is great.
He's also, H Bomber Guy has also done like a 3-hour video on Pathologic, and that one's also exceptional as well.
I want to piggyback off of what you said,
Go for it.
with the video game YouTubers, because there's one I came across recently, and we have all of our hobbies. We all love video games, even though we don't all get to play them as much. But this channel it's called My Retro Life. And what it adds something that we normally don't get in like video game reviews, and that is like a more of a human aspect of things. And that's not to say that people aren't passionate and don't love video games, but this guy, his dad was a tech dude in the late 80s throughout like his life until whenever he passed or whatever, and worked on E3 in the early days of E3 and things like that. So he basically like home movie taped like almost everything that mattered, I guess, to him as far as everything, and that was bringing joy to his son's life. So this guy gets to use like home movies for like, he's got like the day the original Xbox launched, there's a home movie of it, and during the home movie parts of everything, you get to see him as a kid excited about the video games, while he's also going over the history of what this has led up to, like Like, for example, like the Xbox, he starts with a Sega Dreamcast failing, but he also has a video on the launch of the Dreamcast as well. And like anytime a game system launched, his dad would record his reaction and had the video games and everything they were set up or whatever, and you saw like all the joy in his eyes and everything like that. It's like watching that kid open the N64 for the Christmas video, but it's like that for like 10 or 15 minutes, like every time. And it's such an emotional thing, just a roller coaster to, you know, get video games, but get it from an aspect of remember how you felt when you were like a really young kid and you got excited about video games. Like, sure, we get excited about video games, but that is a very rare thing to re-experience that. So my retro life.
Okay, yeah,
Good stuff
yeah.
there.
All right.
I just to quickly capstone with Mandalore. If you want gaming reviews about older content, but it's about older content that didn't necessarily isn't the game's always shit, so it's not like an angry video game reviewer. But also for stuff that isn't mainstream, like the complete history of Super Mario Brothers. No, we go into games that are kind of in that area. There's a game called Vangers. I'm just going to leave it at that because it's kind of like top-down Grand Theft Auto, except it's a post-apocalypse where humans and insects melded into one creature.
Okay.
So just figure out how that works on your own time. But yeah, Mandalore Gaming, that is my first sell me on. I wanted everybody to check him out. The second one, so there's a company called Kayfabe Commentaries, and they made some of the best best shoot interviews of the last 10 to 15 years of wrestling. This is one shout out to Michael Hill and Jason Holder, the guys from Whiskey and Wrestling. They've since opened up a channel called the Best of the KC Vault. And you can go to their website and for a subscription, you can watch all of them. But every so often, every couple months, they throw a couple on there and then they'll take those off and put some different ones on there. And it's basically their entire catalog and what it goes through. And in particular, their You Shoot series, where they went on to YouTube and hey, YouTube commenters, send us your questions, and we're going to be asking like these. And they're not just like third-rate people. They've had some fantastic. Done a couple with Kevin Nash. Sean Oliver, who actually runs it, is the podcast co-host of Kevin Nash's podcast.
Oh, okay.
And so he's a man who deeply loves wrestling and is very well researched. This is the thing that I hate about Conrad Thompson. Conrad Thompson has like Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Bruce Pritchard, men who have had years in history in the wrestling business, and he will ask them a question. They'll get about a minute and a half into it. JR is another one that he also does. Let them get a minute and a half in, and then he just starts giving his opinion on shit. Conrad, I like him as like a jovial, fat Southern guy. And that's it. Just introduce, ask the question, and let them go because these are like legendary people.
Oh yeah, kayfabe, they'll just let him go.
Sean Oliver will just let the guy just talk until he's run out of stuff. There's also they had some women's wrestlers, Maria Kanellis, when she was between WWE the first time in her first stint in ROH. She was on there. There was a bunch of other Awesome Kong. The Awesome Kong one was very fun.
That one's really good.
She was allowed to like show her personality. Absolutely beautiful human being. Love her to death.
Yeah.
I like these things, but what really kind of sold it for me is, so for instance, there's the Scott Hall one.
Yeah.
Scott Hall is no longer with us. And it's one of his last like testaments as a person. And like, as he's talking about the things that he did and like what fans cared about asking him. And then like, if he would either ask the question directly or he answer it, and then it would branch off. Oh, excuse me. It would branch off into something that he'd want to talk about. Not in any kind of inorganic way, like he was shoehorning in. It just kind of blended together. Sean Oliver is also very good at that as well. He has a series. Some people will rankle at this one. He has a series called Back to the Territories. It is hosted by Jim Cornette. This is one of the things where I'm glad Jim Cornette is the host of, because it's someone who definitely has knowledge and a love, because that's where he came from. And some of the people he talks with, they're also no longer with us.
He had one with JR, I think, too.
I don't think he had one
Maybe
with JR.
not.
I know the Back to the Territories, the one that gets me is Amarillo, because Amarillo was Terry Funk. And it was, I think, one of Terry Funk's last shoot interviews.
Right.
And it's just nice to hear this man who lived it and like had this position in there. This one will definitely make Brady mad, but one of my favorite U-shoots of all time is the ones with the Insane Clown Posse. They are thoroughly honest. If they like someone, they will gush over them. If they hate them, they will explain exactly why they hate them. There's nothing fake about what they're talking about.
They don't care
there.
about protecting anybody.
And they
in
have
that situation.
some of the funniest lines. There's a story that Violent J is talking about Goldberg and Evan Courageous. Evan Courageous was a wrestler in WCW in the last days. He was part of the group called 3 Count, which was a take on boy bands and wrestlers.
Which had Shannon
Moore, Shane Helms, and Evan Courageous.
Right.
So Goldberg is sitting in the locker room, and his hands are in his pants, cupping his own balls. Evan Courageous comes in and says, "Goldberg, how have you been?" And Goldberg goes out to like shake his hand, and Evan's like, "Oh, I don't really want to do that." Goldberg then picks Evan Courageous up and throws him over a barricade into the wall.
Okay. Yeah.
The line after that is from Shaggy 2W, and Doug Dillinger didn't do nothing. And he was because he was the head of security at WCW.
Right.
Their timing on the way they deliver stuff is absolutely fantastic. It's this weird kind of, they were in it, but they were still also fans, and they were surrounded by. They talk about like how they started wrestling before they were ever the Inner City Posse. Before they were doing music, they were doing wrestling shows, which that was something I didn't even know about.
Yeah.
And so again, my credit to them for that in particular, but to Sean Oliver and KV Commentaries for really giving like these people a place where it's independent of the big machines, in particular the big machine. It's also independent of some of the other shoot interviews that are going on at the time, like Hannibal, which is and RF Video, which can be good, but can be it's hit and miss,
right?
Because you have someone who's just back behind the camera, just throwing out questions and seeing out their answer, and if they don't have any kind of interest in talking about it. But yeah, kayfabe commentary. So the best of the KC Vault. If you want to get like some histories from the people who lived it in the world of wrestling, I highly recommend that.
It's a good show, man. It is 100%. I've watched almost all of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Those are my selmies.
All right, that's good. That's good. I get to talk now. So a couple of years ago, a movie came out called Follow Me on This Journey. A couple of years ago, a movie came out called Werewolves Within, which is based on the video game, which is based on the game Werewolf. And I watched it, and it was fine. A movie that is it's about this, people in this town. There's a werewolf. They don't know who it is. They keep getting killed. Hijinks ensue. It was a decent movie. It was horror comedy. It was fine. I like it. I might watch it again. It's all right. But around that same time, a little bit actually before that, another horror comedy that involved a werewolf in a small town came out, and it is a movie called The Wolf of Snow Hollow. This was written, directed, and it is starring Jim Cummings. Is also what's the dude's name? His last movie.
Robert Forster.
Yeah, Robert Forster, who is a big that guy actor. And he was in Jackie Brown. He was also in the last season of Breaking Bad. He's the vacuum repairman. If anybody's watched Breaking Bad, you know exactly who that is. So, The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Jim Cummings plays a sheriff's deputy in this small town, I believe in Colorado, somewhere in the mountains, because they do like touristy skiing and snowboarding and stuff like that. And people start getting killed, and they start getting killed in these horribly gruesome ways. And it looks like it was a werewolf that's doing it. Like, it looks like some kind of animal, and people are going like, "Oh, it's a werewolf." And Jim Cummings plays the sheriff's deputy. His dad is the sheriff, and his dad is like on his way out of. He's getting very, very close to retiring because he's just not doing all that well. He's got problems with his heart, and he's trying. Jim Cummings' character is trying to keep him from having too much stress in this job, and trying to talk him into finally retiring. His character is also a recovering alcoholic. The idea of alcoholism, addiction is a big part of this, and it's him dealing with this because everybody's like, "Hey, this kind of looks like a werewolf." And he's like, "No, you're fucking stupid. It's not a werewolf." And there is some, and there's a lot of like incompetence. You know, you have the funny kind of idiot cops. It's not like slapstick, but it is very funny. But it's also like there's this tinge of like, oh man, and there's some gruesome stuff. But it's incredibly funny because he's kind of playing the straight man to everybody's like kind of idiocy. So yeah, if you want a really good, horror comedy that is funny, but is also like it's very poignant when it's talking about the addiction stuff and how and him dealing with that. But it's also like there are some scary parts in it. It's funny without being goofy, and I think sometimes the werewolves within it goes into like more goofy territory, where you don't ever really get. But in Wolf of Snow Hollow, there are some parts where it's like, oh man, this is kind of scary. Really good payoffs in the movie. So if this sounds interesting, you definitely check out The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
That kind of like to like borderlining between like parody and actual like scares and things like that. Mm-hmm. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Oh, I've heard the original. They remade it. No. Yeah. It's got like it was made in like either the late 70s or early 80s or whatever, and it's shot as both a documentary but also a movie about a town that is like under siege by a slasher. Yeah. And the perspective of the characters, sometimes like the sheriff and the deputy, they're a little goofy, and then somebody dies horribly. Yeah. And so it's kind of like a balance between the two. I love that movie.
I've heard of that one. I just never got around to watching it.
It's good.
I need to watch that one definitely. All right. We'll kick it over to Ethan next. So Ethan, what do you got?
So back when I was working as a stalker at a grocery store.
A stalker?
A stalker.
STOCKER. Stalker.
Bianca, is there something we need to know?
She's reading her vampire novel.
She's reading her vampire book and annotating and putting in tabs. She went
right back into it.
Yeah.
She was awoken.
She is in her own world.
If you want to talk about Vampire the Masquerade, she was woken from torpor and went right back to sleep with her vampire book.
Yeah.
Nothing to worry about, Bianca.
Now she's only worried.
Yeah.
He said when he was a stalker.
Oh, she's putting
stock.
But he meant to say stalker.
Yeah.
He did say stalker. It's just that stalker and stalker sound alike.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Continue on.
Yeah.
I would listen to my various podcasts, and I came across a kind of like a the best way to put it is like an audio novel of sorts.
Okay.
Yeah. Called The Edge of Sleep.
Okay.
Have y'all heard of it?
Nope. I have not.
I have not. No.
Okay.
This is something totally new.
I'll read the like synopsis for you.
Okay.
Like, when a night watchman finishes his shift at work, he is terrified to discover that everyone in the world who went to sleep the previous night has died. Now he and a band of survivors must stay awake and uncover the secret of this global epidemic before they fall asleep. Which it originally kind of gave me like Nightmare on Elm Street vibes. It was like you go to sleep and something in your dreams goes out and kills you while you're sleeping. But as I was listening to it, it was more so like a global like supernatural phenomena that was like overtaking like actual sleep and not just some fictional character that's like targeting specific people. And so it was kind of interesting as this the main character who's voiced by Mark Fishbach, Markiplier on YouTube and whatnot. And it was kind of interesting to see listen how they like overcome it, like how in the Nightmare Street movies they're like, okay, we gotta stay awake, we gotta figure out how to deal with this this unknown phenomena. We have to figure out how to like get rid of the source of the killings. But it's different between like one person being picked off one after another, rather than everyone just simultaneously fall asleep and just never wake up.
Oh wow!
And he kind of goes through the emotions of, okay, everyone I know is is asleep and they're not waking up. The only people that are awake are the people I just finished my shifts with, some random nurse and doctors I found in a hospital next door. We have to figure out like what's triggering this, and so it's very interesting with like how the main character like goes about trying to solve this while also trying to like figure out how am I going to protect the people that I care about. Also goes through some emotional trauma that he has with an ex that he's going about this with, like trying to encourage everyone to stay awake, trying to encourage trying to like push to find the source of this, while also dealing with these like faint images of what's behind this, and getting hints from some like extraterrestrial being to like overcome this epidemic. And my words aren't doing the best of service, but this was like one of the things that like kept me like interesting of like like listening to. It's like, okay, so I finished this. I'm tripped the fuck out. I kind of want. It got me hooked to where I was expecting like more to come out of like other episodes.
Yeah,
and it finished, and I really loved it. It was like a quick like 8 episode thing, like 30 to 45 minutes. A lot of people really liked it to where it's actually getting a TV show that's supposed to be releasing sometime at the end of this year.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And so it was one thing that really kind of like hooked me in, audio wise.
Nice. That
sound interesting.
It sounds really cool. There's a podcast called Welcome to Night Vale. Have you heard of it?
No, I have heard of that one.
So I'm gonna present to you how the show goes. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Night Vale. I am your radio host. Today, we've heard that there has been a green cloud sighted over Mr. Farmerson's farm. That's not his real name. I'm just making it up. We've been told by sources and the authorities that we should ignore the green cloud. Moving on, Mrs. Smith's petunias have seemed to have unplanted themselves and started walking around the town. I'm exaggerating, but anyway, it's a podcast where the radio show host is telling you all this like weird shit that's happening, but in a very normal fashion. But that's the beginning of the show. It escalates after that, after episodes and episodes.
It's like the Prairie Home Companion if it lived in the Ghostbusters universe.
It's very like, some of it's Lovecraftian. There's some cosmic horror stuff happening. Sometimes it's just like B horror stuff happening. But as everything's happening, he's a like very calm tone of just like, everything's going to be okay. We just have to make sure at 6 o'clock to lock your doors, shut your lights off, and never answer the door or any window tapping that you may hear.
The creepy one, I off and on, I will listen to. I've never been able to get into it fully because by the time I knew about it, it was well over 100 episodes.
Right.
But that one in particular, I think they mentioned something about do not talk to them. They are not your family, not anymore. And then they don't explain any further than that.
No. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
That's like, I used to listen to the No Sleep podcast, which was just short stories basically. They do like sound effects and everything, but there was like, 2 or 3 in the free episodes. There was like 2 to 3, maybe 4, but you could subscribe and get like longer episodes. And I ended up stopping because, like, man, there were some of those. There was like it was hit or miss, but like the ones that hit very hard and like still like linger around. Like every once in a while, they'll just roll around in my brain.
Right.
I'm like, oh man, I need to stop that shit.
So one of the things that Jay just said kind of like reminded me of something that happens in the Edge of Sleep.
Yeah. Whenever
someone, the main character whose name is Damien, the entity that's causing everyone to die in their sleep, it kind of understands that Damien's trying to stop it and like put a stop to it. And so what the entity does is he kind of like takes over the bodies, like the bodies of everyone that's sleeping, almost kind of like zombie-esque, and like sends them after Damien and his crew. And later in the show, we see that Damien's like encountering his friends that's asleep, like their eyes are closed and they're not like no facial muscles are like happening or whatsoever. But they hear the this entity is speaking through them with their voice, saying like, Damien, we're coming after you.
Oh, yeah.
And it like trips him out to where they're like he's having to understand like, I don't know who to trust at this point. And so it is very trippy, very creepy, but still.
If that was presented to you like as an episode of Night Vale, the host would say, "There might be a man that may approach you in the street. His name will be Damien. Ignore him."
Yeah.
Or attack him.
So yeah, The Edge of Sleep is one that I very, very much loved.
Yeah,
back
that sounds interesting.
It does.
And if I may present my second.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I told Jay about this a couple months ago when I first found it. It's called Find Us Alive. It's one of the is based around the whole like SCP, like secure contained.
It's a podcast or a video series. Or?
It's like an audio novel.
It's an audio novel. Okay.
Yes.
What was it called again?
SCP Find Us Alive.
Find Us Alive.
It's from the perspective of Dr. Harley, who's a radio operator and one of the SCP containment sites, where they're containing an SCP that's able to like open portals and transport like mass quantities through space time and rifts to like alternate dimensions. And as he's like recording, the entire site kind of like goes through this like dimensional shift to where they find themselves in a different reality, like no contact outside of the site whatsoever, and everyone inside of the site is trying to survive while also performing their duties, researching the SCP, performing actions that they would normally do had they not be in that situation. And so it goes through like cabin fever symptoms of people trying to like putting knives against everyone's necks, like everyone like bursts of anger, shortage of food, and while also dealing with this unknown entity that's wanting to escape. And so it's very interesting in the beginning. I kind of got teetered off with it with like work and other life things, which is actually something I want to get back into listening, because it's very interesting in the beginning. Again, it hooked me in, but life gets in the way. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, I got a question, because since you're mentioning that it's a SCP story, how do you guys feel about that like sub genre getting its own category to where it's like a focus, kind of like it's built around experiments and secret government like funding, and like for example, Stranger Things would be an SCP, right?
Well, the original, I think, proto one of those would be the X-Files.
Well, yeah, the X-Files for sure.
I love the games. The idea of the monster that can only like attack, like come after you if your eyes are closed. So like the notion that you have to have a blink meter, and then it's like, okay, you need to get enough space, but if he can't see you, then he just moves up to as close as he can.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you hit that blink meter, and it's like 10 feet away from you. It's like, oh, okay,
I'm awake now.
this works. Like, yeah, I'm all for. I like the notion of SCP. It hasn't gotten to the point yet where I think it's overdone, because I think it stayed primarily in the video game circles. Of course, we do have we have an audio novel now. We have other things.
Well, there's YouTube. There's it's audio, but they use like images of like stories that they use that SCP Foundation.
I think of SCP in the same way I think of Backrooms content, and the fact that anybody can kind of add to this.
Sure.
Kind of like
to
analog horror.
To me, it's the new Cthulhu mythos.
Yeah.
It's something that has been created open source that people can add on to.
Yeah.
And kind of make their own, while at the same time being reverent to the things that have already come before.
Right. It's more of a hyper focus of a sub genre of storytelling where
I kind of like place it under like kind of like creepypastas. It kind of like took its own like that, like think of like the original like Slender Man creepypasta. Like it's like overly popularized to where like games got developed around it, and they came out with a movie, and so I see these like short stories of like individual like SCPs, and then the community just kind of like kept adding to it, to where its own game got developed, and so
it's a take on, like, if you take it like boil it down to its like most simplest forms, it is usually most of those stories usually involved a mad scientist scenario with some sort of device or something that opens a portal somewhere, and there's a cryptid. Or there's a cryptid somewhere and we got to find out where it came from, and it came from this underground facility that blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, anything like that when it comes to like the creepypastas or anything where somebody is taking an idea and kind of taking their own spin with it. Like some of them are going to be good and some of them are not going to be good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And sometimes it's going to be taken into a really stupid way. And sometimes it's going to be taken into a way where it's like, oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Right.
So yeah. I'd actually just recently watched a video where this person went over the like history of some of the more popular creepypastas and just kind of went over the stuff, different things about them. Not Slenderman, because she said she's going to do like an entire video later on of that.
To me, as far as like reach, and to me also just effectiveness of story, Slenderman is like the top, like is the S tier of it. Like there's some stuff that could be scary, but I think has been overdone. Look at Jeff the Killer. I think there's stuff that just was never scary.
Right.
Just in general, it was just kind of a shock mode. Like I think of Agamemnon Counterpart, which is just a weird fucking video. And it really, it's immediately tongue in cheek because it says in the year 2700, a videotape was found on a mysterious blue planet. The planet was not Earth. Here's the video. And it's like, wait, what?
I mean, that's the thing, because some people are going to, it's just, some people are just going to do the same shit that most people do with fan fiction and just write whatever they think is cool. And sometimes it's cool to everybody, and sometimes it's only cool to literally that person. That's just how shit like that works. Yeah.
Yeah, those are my two submissions.
Okay. Well, since everybody, kind of lumped all theirs together, I'll end with lumping two movies together because they're similar. They are sci-fi with some horror and very trippy and very, very, especially one of them is very low budget. So the first one we're going to talk about is a movie called Triangle. Anybody heard of this?
I have, yes.
Okay.
I have not.
The 2009 film?
I believe it's 2009.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Triangle is about this woman who she's a single mother with a child with, I believe, autism. It's some kind of, a mental handicap thing. And she goes on a to kind of, it's a very demanding thing and to kind of, take a load off. Basically, she goes with some friends. They're going to go sailing, all right, on this little smallish sailboat, and they get caught in a storm and get capsized. And as they're trying to figure things out, they cross paths with an ocean liner, and they're able to get aboard, and they find out that it's abandoned. And then weird things start happening. They come across like the dining room ballroom area, and one moment it has, it's all this nice food, and they come back again and it's all rotten and stuff like that. And they start getting chased and stalked and killed by by someone, in a mask with a shotgun. And she's trying to figure out all these weird things that are happening and what's going on and everything like this. And it's a very trippy movie. It needs to be watched a couple of times, probably more than a couple of times, to really wrap your head around, because they drop some bombs on you. They're just like, holy shit. But it's a really, really interesting movie. It's super low budget. They don't use many effects. Most of the effects aren't super great, but like it's more about like the premise and the story and how this character deals with it. Because the whole time she's like, oh shit, I have to get back to my son. I have to get back to my son. I have to get back to my son. Like, this is the driving thing, because she's like, well, I can't, like, if something happens to me, then like there is literally no one to take care of him. So she's very driven when it comes to that. But it's a very, very interesting movie. So that's one. The other one, and this one's even a lower budget, It's a movie called Coherence. Anybody heard of this one?
Nope.
All right.
The 2013 film.
I believe so.
Never seen it.
Okay. Coherence is about these friends who get together for a dinner party. There's supposed to be this comet that passes over. And they're just kind of getting together, it's just an excuse for them to kind of get together and hang out and have dinner and kind of watch this comet. And then weird shit starts happening. They kind of go out. Some of them go out to investigate, and they come back, and they kind of get the feeling that some of these people might not be the original. They look like the people, but they might not be the people. And they start to figure out what weird things are going on, because the power goes out and then it comes back on. Sometimes just weird shit keeps happening, and they can't quite figure out if the people who are around them now are even the same people. So it's another weird, trippy, pretty heavy concept with kind of a complex concept, but also they do a good job of like explaining things and working through things with it. And there's a lot of like, and just like Triangle, there's some bombs that they drop where it's like, oh shit. Yeah, both of these also star a blonde chick. So yeah, those are two really, really trippy movies with kind of complex movies to watch. But there's a lot of stuff to roll around in your brain, which is some of my favorite types of movies. And they also can be kind of scary and creepy in different ways. So yeah, that is my stuff. Does anybody have anything else? Everybody
was anyone sold on any one thing one of us presented?
So far, I like everything I've heard.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's been some crossover. There's stuff that I've dealt with before.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I kind of want to watch, because like I've been wanting to like dip into like find like unique like horror movies,
Mm-hmm.
and so like those two kind of like sound like something I'd be interested in. So
yeah. Those last two that I talked about are definitely movies that you need to really pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking up at your phone, you're gonna like be super confused, and you're gonna be like, oh, I don't even understand. And even then, like, it's kind of hard to really get your head around some of the stuff.
Triangle sounds like a movie you should watch with friends, not for the goofy riff on stuff, but everybody may get a piece of it, and they may figure it out by the end of it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I'm thinking in my brain.
That one is a little bit more clear once you watch it, but it does like, okay, you'll be like, okay, I figured it out, and then like another thing happens, and you're like, oh shit, what I thought wasn't right was right, and I thought I had a grasp on this. Now I don't know.
That's how I felt the first time I watched The Shining or A Clockwork Orange or 2001. Not saying that it's epic in that regard.
Yeah.
But
they're much smaller movies.
Mind warping in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're definitely that. So if that's an experience that you're looking for, and that's an experience that I really like in movies.
Oh yeah,
is when I kind of like, oh, and then.
Like the oh shit moments.
Yeah. I love those where you're like, oh shit, I got it, and then it's like,
yeah.
Or and then when you think you got it, and you're like, oh shit, like,
or you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I call that the old boy effect.
Yeah. Yeah, except that one's more like, ugh.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But so yeah, that's the two things. That's all the stuff. I decided, looking at my list, I was like, I'm gonna pick out some horror movies since it is spooky season. We didn't agree to be like doing, but Ethan also brought some spooky stuff with that. So
I talked about the kayfabe commentaries by Insane Clown Posse. That's spooky. So
yeah, that is spooky. That is terrifying.
Wesley Willis showed up. That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Following that with the Beat Poets was something else. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's definitely
I've just
shift
crashed
in
into
tone.
a brick wall. Quickly, let's get to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I should have done an audible and talked about outsider music. That'd have been great.
Oh, Jesus. So yeah, hopefully there's something that we talked about in here that interests you, that piques your interest. There's definitely some good stuff that I think that we talked about. There was some stuff that I was familiar with, although with the beatnik stuff, I was familiar with it, but I hadn't actually like read it. So yeah, like I said, hopefully there's something here that we have sold you on. And if so, write in and tell us. Send a carrier pigeon.
Subscribe to our Patreon to be put
No,
up.
it's Subscribe Star. Give us
Subscribe Star.
$100,000 on Subscribe Star, and we will read your letter.
It's probably about as legit as Patreon is nowadays.
Yeah, probably.
Join us on Locals, where we can be completely uncensored for only $10.99 a month.
Check out Ethan on Grindr.
Wait, hang on.
Locals is not a dating site.
Grindr is.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. You should check
No.
the Bro app out. It's an
I don't
app.
know
It's
what
an
that-
app where you just like hang out with bros and find bros to hang out with.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's totally straight.
Yeah.
Jesus.
There was a reality show called Bromance,
No.
and it was on MTV. And the elimination happened in a hot tub with a bunch of dudes.
Not my cup of tea.
If a bunch of dudes are in hot water, they'll make a cup of tea.
Makes a cup of dudes.
Bro tea.
No.
MILF Manor is worse.
Milk
Yeah,
Manor is way
Milk
worse.
Manor
Hey,
is
let me
really-
bring my mother to this mansion and have all these guys that I've just met hit on her.
Yeah, it's gross.
Nah.
Yeah.
There's a I think it's called Naked Attraction on Max, where it's a dating thing where they just show you people's genitals and then you pick it from that. Like literally, it's they lift up and the thing okay from the waist down.
Oh my god.
Now eliminate somebody.
Oh
and then they show
my
you
God.
okay here's their chest. Then eliminate somebody. Then eliminate it down to like 2 people, and then the person who was picking, then they have to come out naked, and then they pick between the last 2 people. And it's full frontal. Like they show everything.
No.
And the Netflix show Too Hot to Handle is all about connections. It has nothing to do with lust. Well,
Yeah.
it does, but
Yeah.
it has to do with connections.
What's that one?
No.
Animal Attraction, where they put them in like heavy animal makeup.
That's
What?
fucking Sexy Beast.
Sexy Beast.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's trash.
I'm pretty sure y'all are just making this up.
No,
No.
everything that we have said is real.
We fell into another sell me on it.
yeah. If
We're
any,
not
I'm not being
dating
sold.
shows.
If
I'm
any
not
of-
being sold.
if any of these terrible reality shows have any interest in you, if you want them to rot your brain, that's fine.
Bianca, if we dressed up and used full on makeup to turn Ethan into a dolphin, yes or no? Just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
She's contemplating.
No,
Just
don't
thinking.
look at him. Don't look at
No,
him.
well, she has to like
No,
imagine him as a dolphin.
Close your eyes. Imagine Ethan as a dolphin. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Don't look at. Close your eyes. Yeah.
man.
Guess what you're dressing up for at the wedding? No, it's too late. You've already decided. We're making him your
I
dolphin
said
husband.
no for a reason.
Yeah, we know how the bachelor party is going to be.
I don't want to be a dolphin.
We're going to hire Tom Savini.
I don't want to be a dolphin.
If you want Ethan to be dressed up as a dolphin, please give us $100,000 on our
$5.
subscribe
We'll
star.
take $5.
Yeah, you.
No, we need to be able to pay for it.
No.
$5 isn't enough.
It could be paper mache.
No.
Somehow that's worse. I like that.
Yeah, because you got to pull it off him. Would you want like wet fucking flour and water fucking newspaper ripped off your body?
No, but it's not me that it's happening.
I'm not being sold on any of this.
We have agreed to
sort
do-
of sell me on this. You're doing a terrible job.
We have agreed to do this to Ethan. We didn't say we're going to do it.
Passengers, do you want Ethan to be make-upped and dressed up as a dolphin on his wedding day?
Join our Spotify poll.
Yes. Oh my God! Well, the poll. I don't have to worry about making a poll this week. I know what the poll is.
I need a
This is such a
T-shirt with
180.
Ethan as a dolphin.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
This has been such a 180.
Yeah.
I
I've
wasn't
been sold.
expecting
I've been sold on dolphin. Dolphin.
Dolphin?
Dolphin.
Dolphin?
Dolphin.
Dolphin.
You'll be Belle Dolphin.
Oh no!
Let me see the button. I'm amending it now.
No.
You get away.
Get the
There
fuck
you
away.
go.
Get away.
Just for more nightmare fuel, here,
That's
Ethan.
sexy.
Here's
There's-
pictures of the people dressed up.
What
Yeah.
the fuck?
You could look like that on your wedding.
Yeah, yeah.
Just-
No.
Yeah. For if you give us $110,000 on Subscribe Star.
Why is the chicken man flexing?
I mean, why not?
I think we need to go into promos because we're not getting better than
Of course, this is a Netflix show.
Yeah. Why is the chicken man flexing?
Why is the chicken
That
man-
might be just like the overall theme of our show.
That might be the answer to all things. Why is the chicken man flexing?
Why is the chicken man flexing? No.
Listeners, write into us. Why is the chicken man flexing?
Why is the chicken man flexing, passengers?
Oh man.
That's our first merch.
There, you know, I've seen almost all of the trash television on Netflix, but there's one show I will not watch. Down for Love.
I thought you were about to say silence your cell phones and go into the
Everybody get ready to
censored.
because once he explains this, we need to cut that.
All right, and here we go. So exscribe Down for Love.
So at first we had a very tasteful show called Love on the Spectrum, where they explained the show is about like people that are slightly on the spectrum, mostly. Trying to find other people that are also slightly on the spectrum. I'm pushing that for a reason, and it's very wholesome. It is 100% wholesome, and it's not coming from a terrible place where you're supposed to like laugh and point at people.
Okay.
Down for Love is a dating show. This is just from the thumbnail. I didn't even watch the trailer. Is a dating show about people with Down's syndrome. That's all I'm gonna say. That's it. I'm leaving it there. There you go. Because if you're watching that and you're not related to somebody who has Down syndrome, you're not watching that for a wholesome experience.
Yeah.
That's not what it's there for. And Netflix fucking knows that.
Oh yeah.
We do need something to cut out. So censored.
Yeah.
Censored.
Yeah.
Censored.
Censored. Yeah.
There we go. All right, there we go.
And that would be the show.
There we go.
Got it.
There
We got
go.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm gonna start out because I never get to do the easy ones. So
They're always taken from you.
yeah, listen to Whiskey and Wrestling. Our friends Jason Holder and Michael Hill. They will they'll talk to you about the past week's wrestling, and they will also drink some whiskey. 99.9% of the time it's whiskey. Sometimes they get some other stuff, and they'll tell you about that stuff too. So they'll it's not really pairing, but they'll have a whiskey, and then they'll talk to you about wrestling and give you their opinions. So if any of that sounds interesting, I'm certain that you'll hear about Wrestle Dream and
NXT No Mercy.
NXT No Mercy, probably. I don't know.
They finally talked about it after so many years.
Yeah, well, for the longest, there wasn't really anything worth watching on NXT.
2 words: Ilya Dragunov.
Dragunov, yes.
Ilya Dragunov is great.
He's always looks so concerned because he has to murder the person standing next to him.
Yeah, he doesn't know that wrestling isn't real. It's like him and Eddie Kingston think that it's completely like not fake.
Yeah, it used to be I wanted to see Ilya versus Gunther 3. Now I just want to see Ilya versus Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
Because that'll be real murder caught on tape.
Eddie Kingston, you will be on commentary because nobody wants to smell menthol cigarettes and Burger King or whatever the fuck he.
Oh my God, they're gonna have to beat him out so many times.
Dragunov and Danielson.
That would be a good match. Dragunov and mostly anybody is
So
going to be.
Danielson wants to die in the ring.
Yeah.
So he's going to call upon Ilya Dragunov.
That's how Danielson gets his wish and dies in the ring. He's not gonna see his daughter's 8th birthday.
Jeez.
Fearology is a show which I host. Or
Hey. Jody, how about you tell us another person?
Fearology is a podcast I host.
He said another person
on Spotify, which there are currently 12 episodes, and it's going to stay that way for a while because I only have so much time for horror movies, and also my PC isn't working right now.
Yeah.
So
You heard it here. Jody's creatively bankrupt.
Yep, completely. I'm out of ideas. Sorry, guys. You're going to have to hold the weight.
Why do you think he brought up Wesley Willis?
Yeah.
That's right. I'm out of it. Like Wesley Willis is the bottom, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm out of ideas. Fearology on
you should
Spotify.
talk to me. I had like 3 ideas for Fearology.
Shit. I keep saving all those for the crossover shows that we never do.
Whose fault is that?
Mine.
You threw out like three episode ideas in the past week, and
Yeah.
none of them were fearology.
Yeah. You're 100% correct.
Oh, Ethan, what you got?
Silence Your Cell Phones, hosted by Jared Hubbard and Kevin Shelton. They go about movies and TV shows you should and should not watch. Maybe they've discussed one of the various TV movies that we've talked about tonight, like Triangle and... Shit, what was the other one?
Coherence, motherfucker.
Was that a bit? Or
No,
did you legitimately
no, he
forget
legitimately forgot.
shit? He's worried about getting dressed up as a dolphin for his wedding.
Yeah,
It's gonna be great.
we did put him on tilt with that one.
Coherence and
just
Wolf on
that's it.
Snowman.
Jesus
What
Christ.
the fuck is wrong?
So Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Hollow.
The porn version of it is Wolf on Snowman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not. There's not enough innuendo in that one for my taste, but
Snowman gets it innuendo.
Yeah, no. Give them listen to in case you were tired of listening
give
to
them
us.
listen to. Listen hard with
Then
ears.
give them a listen to.
No, you didn't.
No.
You didn't. And I will edit it to make sure that you didn't.
Give them a
Give them listen. Listen hard with ears.
Yes.
Silence your cell phone.
Silence, you cell phones.
Movies.
That just sounds like me yelling. Silence you cell phones.
Now he's trying to recover.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Jay, recover from this or don't. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's super late.
Crash and burn, if you will.
Let's see what I can do here. The Completed Podcast. Chris Vega, Brandon Scott Tanner, and Brandon, always forget his last name.
Smith.
Brandon Smith. It's the easiest name to remember, and I forget that one all the
The
time.
most common last name.
But no, for war stories from the tables of Magic the Gathering, along with strategy and tactic talks and just regular real life stuff going on. Check out the Completed Podcast if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering and just card games in general, perhaps. And with that, if you are hearing this before October 28th, 2023, we are having the BST for BST, the Brain Surgery Tournament for Brandon Scott Tanner. Magic Modern Unleashed?
Modern Unleashed.
I was about to say
Unleashed.
Standard Unleashed, and that would have been a whole different category.
Modern
Yeah.
with no ban list.
Modern, no ban list. Your entire deck can be proxied, but it's $1 per proxy. Make sure it's in full color, not just black and white. If you like drawing cards, you can spend $1 and draw a card at instant speed. You make them deal, not you. That's how it is. Someone's going to bring a Crucible of Worlds deck and just play that immediately, throw all their lands down, and just win on that round. I'm going to say that I'm predicting that right now. But all proceeds go to the medical bills of one Brandon Scott Tanner, again, co-host of the Completed Podcast, who is currently dealing with and fighting valiantly against stage 3 brain cancer. Brandon, we love you, brother, and we want to make sure that you get through this on the other side as best you can. There will be additional raffles. It is also our Halloween time, so it's going to be after McNarb After Dark afterwards with our Halloween party, possibly Blood on the Clock Tower being played amongst the group, and a bunch of other fun and hopefully wonderful activities throughout the day. That is the BST for BST. Brandon, again, we love you, brother.
Unless you get free admission to the Halloween party if you
Participate
in the tournament, but it's $5 for if you did not. And I believe I saw that the raffles afterwards are going to be like $1 a ticket.
$1 ticket plus one free ticket for your entry into the tournament. It's also going to be in there. Also, our friend Chris Vega's wife, Savannah Vega, has produced wonderful mugs, T-shirts, and other various wonderful things in honor of Brandon. Hoodies, T-shirts, but I love the coffee mug idea in particular. So if you buy, and I believe if you buy those, that also represents entry into the tournament, or is an entry for the raffles?
One or the other, but it's not both.
Check out the McNarb Gaming page on Facebook for more information. Also, there's a Venmo link there if you want to just donate money directly to him.
Yeah. If you want to just come and throw money at him, that's fine too. I'm sure he won't say no to that.
Just throw a wad of cash at him.
Yeah. Don't throw change though.
Pennies hurt, y'all.
Yeah, pennies do.
That's another tagline for the show.
Pennies
Travelers
That was such conviction that
Travelers on the omnibus.
that you absolutely
Pennies hurt,
know
y'all.
that.
Yes.
He knows that down in his soul. Pennies hurt.
That's how he used to get his stripper money.
pennies.
Ooh, God.
Pennies from heaven.
Got to pay for the wedding somehow.
Yeah, that dolphin costume's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
How does it feel when a bunch of pennies hit your coin purse?
Jesus
And by that he means your nutsack.
So-
not pleasant.
No. On that note, we're gonna shut down.
Are you sure it's not you shutting down?
I mean, both. ¿Por qué no los dos?
Are you on the edge of sleep? You may not want to do that.
Yeah. Sure.
That's a reference to Ethan's.
Oh shit! I didn't get it until then. Cool.
Oh no. Okay.
So for Travelers on the Omnibus, I am Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite.
Did you have to think who you were?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's the ultimate in disassociation.
I'm Ethan Skinner.
That's mostly what I do is disassociate.
Okay. And I'm James McCarthy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for stopping by and enjoying the ride.
All right. Good night.
Don't throw change at people.
We're not ending on that.
No.
What the fuck?
No, don't. You can throw change to people. Don't throw it at them. You see a homeless person, you can throw them some change.
Unless they're asking for money for ice cream, then you totally throw change right in their face.
Yeah. If they're an asshole, you can throw change at them. It's fine. Nickels hurt worse, I think.
Probably.
If they ask you for a specific amount of money, consider it. Don't necessarily do it outright, but consider it.
Can I get $2 for an ice cream? Fuck off.
Can I have $1.38? Yes. Just I'm okay with that. Do the be more
Be more nerd.
Bye.